let's go ahead and get started. So I realize the mic's not working, but this is for the people on Zoom, not for you in the room, if you're wondering why I'm speaking into a mic that's not projecting. All right, so I know most of you, but for those of you I don't know, Sean Amorati, one of the co-founders and the director of the Corporate Startup Lab. Just to quickly set context here. Oh, does this one actually project in the room too? Okay, now we're holding two mics, and I'm sure one of them will. This building cost $165 million, so why would we expect the AV to work? So real quick, just to set the stage. So for the next hour, the students are going to be talking about kind of lessons from the project that are not proprietary to their project. If you're sponsoring one of the projects, after this public demo day, you'll then go into a conference room to talk about the private things. Just to kind of quickly preview too, I think we have some brochure somewhere. We do have a committed date for the Corporate Entrepreneurship Forum this fall. So you'll be getting an email with that. And I believe there are brochures out there. We're actually calling it Corporate Startup Week because we're going to do the case competition the day before. So it'll be kind of a couple day back-to-back event. So hopefully you'll get an email by the end of the week on that. And hopefully you guys can come back to campus in the fall for that. I did want to just take a minute and introduce Dave Mawhinney and have him say a few things. Dave is technically my boss, but more than my boss, I can say like he's truly a guy who's really steered my career, and I'm eternally thankful for Dave. I did my first startup. Dave was the CEO of. We continue to work together, and he brought me back to Carnegie Mellon. And I would also say like there's a couple people in the building who, if they weren't here, like CSL wouldn't exist, and Dave is at the top of that list. He runs the Schwartz Center, so CSL is part of the Entrepreneurship Center. Dave runs the entire Entrepreneurship Center here at Carnegie Mellon and is a great mentor to me and many of our students. So Dave, a couple.
Yeah, Sean understates the relationship. He was my roommate while I had a wife and 3 kids too. We were doing a startup that sold to financial organizations in New York. So he took an apartment in New York, took one for the team. But he said, I do have to come back to Pittsburgh because I do want to get married someday. And so hey, don't let...
That was not what was that.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Yeah, all right. It's close to true right there. But no. So Sean wrote a book a few years ago called The Science of Growth, and we thought that a lot of startups would love that book, but it turns out that a lot of corporate innovators really, really loved that book and started to buy it. And Sean came to me and said, what if we were to, create a part of the Schwartz Center that would focus on corporate innovation and corporate startups? And I said, absolutely, let's do it, right? Because who knew where it was going to go, right? That's where most innovation comes from. So you got to take these good ideas and you've got to iterate on them. I'm so glad to see people like Chris and Estella who've been long-term friends. Laura's here somewhere. I saw her a little bit earlier. And some new faces that are getting to meet. So this program is growing, and we're really excited about that. The real value in this program has nothing to do with Sean or I. It has everything to do with these amazing students that you're going to see present tonight. I've had a lot of them in my classes as well. It's just too hard to understate how amazingly brilliant these young people are. I get up every morning inspired to say, I just don't want to F them up at all. So we work really, really hard to help them go in the right direction and do the right thing. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I'm sure I'll get to meet some of you who I haven't met yet in the networking session.
Thanks, Dave. And I think with that, I just want to quickly recognize let's actually give Dave a round of applause real quick. So really quickly, I also just want to recognize the CSL team real quick, and then Melissa, I will hand it over to you. But we have the faculty here tonight. So Lou Masanti, Lori Barkman, and Melissa Murphy, who are incredible teachers. One of the things I've learned is like if you can get people who are better than you to do things for you, like it's amazing how successful things can become. And so we got 3 people who are better at teaching than me to teach the class, which is great. And then Hallie and is Sean somewhere? I think Sean's right there. So Hallie and Sean are academic program managers, which really make all of these things happen. So just real quick, we could recognize them. And then I will hand it to Melissa, who's the lead instructor, and we'll kind of walk through the student presentation.
I still don't think either of these are working, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Hi, we're good now. Okay, black one. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Public Demo Day. For those of you that don't know, the Corporate Startup Lab Capstone is a really, really tremendously unique opportunity. Not only do we get to work with graduate students and a tremendous group of sponsors, we get to work with students that are from departments all over campus, and that's what makes this so unique. As you all know from working and from this experience, teamwork sometimes can be challenging. So not only do we bring students together, we bring students who don't know each other with very, very different backgrounds to work with clients in categories they have no knowledge of in the beginning. So quite a road that we take on at the beginning of the semester. I personally want to thank Lou and Lori, Sean and Hallie for helping me and others get through all of that. Without the teamwork, this wouldn't happen. So I'm grateful to them personally and professionally. But those who know me well know that my heart belongs with the students. I do the interviewing process for the capstones. I teach several other classes on campus, and that's sort of where my passion lies. So I am thrilled to be here tonight to introduce you to one representative from each team to talk about what their key learnings are. The interesting part is that 4 of these teams have already presented, so they're done. So they're going to be laughing, maybe singing, who knows. The rest still have to present to their clients. So the vibe may be a little bit different. But with that, we're going to start off with Muna, who is on the Phillips team, which is our afternoon section. We had 4 Phillips teams. And she is going to kick us off and share some of her experiences about the capstone.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Muno, full name Oremuno Ogilowohor. I'm in the Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence and Innovation program at the School of Computer Science, and I'm representing Team 2. All right, this is my lovely team. Like Melissa said, you can imagine bringing an MBA, an AI, health analytics, human-computer interaction, students all together in one team to figure out a project that no one has any idea of what to do. But at the end of the day, like, we really work together very collaboratively, and like we're able to deliver like a successful end report. And if you hear me singing, it's probably because I've already completed my presentation. So I'm gonna go in to share my journey with my team members. So one of the biggest problems that we had going into the project was that, like I said, like we had no clue. Like me coming from like an electrical engineering background, going into AI, I had no idea what was happening in the healthcare field. But one of the biggest things that I found that was really interesting and was really important is how effective collaboration really enables you to drive like progress and drive change. And one of the things I really enjoyed by being part of this CSO course is the support that you have from like Melissa, Lou, Sean, everyone that I've like been in contact with and consistently like talking to, and especially like the Phillips team. Like I really enjoyed being a part of this project because not only was it this, it was also just like playing blue. Like it was also like really like inspiring, and really it helped me see things from a very different perspective. And even if like for example, me coming from a different background, not really knowing too much about like the healthcare space, I can talk on and on and on about like the different challenges in the field. And that's what this course is about. So going into teamwork, I would say one of the biggest things that really helped my team succeed was constantly collaborating and constantly reach out to each other. Like we had a very seamless process when it comes to our communication channels, so very like standardized. We had like weekly meetings, and as a benefit of being part of the course, you have some money to spend on food. So we had some times where during our team meetings we also ordered food, and it was just like we had like this 30-minute break of just eating, and it was just fantastic in the midst of all the turmoil. But that goes to say that it's not always the best. Like we did have our hiccups here and there due to miscommunication, but the biggest thing that I took from that was if there's any miscommunication, order food. Everyone's fine afterwards. So some of the challenges that we had just going through like class and everything is some of the challenges that we had going through like class was just the different concepts that was introduced to us. Like for me, for example, like I had no idea what value innovation model was. But by being a part of the course, I was able to learn a lot of things that were very important. Like if you have a project, like how do you know how to pitch to different members of the C-suite? Like how do you know how to streamline your product goals and your project's like visions. Like, what are those things that you need to do in order to align your project with, for example, like your project sponsor or whoever is directing the project. So, and that was what CSL tools really helped my team really align our project as we kept on going. So, like things like the corporate startup lab canvas, the pitching innovation to the C-suite canvas, and also like learning about the value innovation model. All those things were very important for us to pretty much jump over and cross those like challenges. And yeah, those were like immense like opportunities for us, because if you don't have to weed through nothing, you're not going to get anywhere. So we had to really plow throughout the entire course to get to where we are now. And thank you. This is my lovely team members.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Jason from the Numo team. Woohoo! Come on, it's kind of like Price is Right, like cheer them up.
Hello, I am Jason. I'm from Team Triple or Team Numo. And I'm pursuing my public policy and data analytics from Heinz College. And this is my team. We have Ayush, Aryan, me, Jason, Alana, Harini, and we have Jason again. So we were tasked with helping Triple, and I think we did a pretty good job of it. But what did we learn while we did that? So one thing I learned is that a team is like a catchy tune, with each member adding their own unique notes to it. And when alone, they are not as good, but when combined, they represent the combined human potential. Now imagine a world where there is only one note. It might be all right at first, but then it gets a little monotonous. And similarly, what happened in CSL, when people from different colleges, skills, and backgrounds are brought together, they are able to solve multifaceted problems with creativity. And I was able to see that in CSL from day one, because when we started out and got to know the problem, me and Hardi, that is the analytical duo in our team, we were talking about what models we can build, what can we do, what kind of data we get, and we somewhat sounded similar to and that is interesting, but it gets more about privilege. And then we had our beautiful Harish and just signing it, and then signing back a little bit more interesting. It sounded somewhat and then we had Revinable, Alana, and on him. We had President, and then we had someone over the board. We found her. And then we had the books from our professor, that from our client, from Sean, Boo, Melissa. They had some more party books. And that is what I learned from CSN. I figured I did more than just make weird sounds memorable. What I learned is that a team that is diverse is able to have a larger skill set to draw from. They are more robust, and they are able to handle different kind of problems much better. It was all fun working with my team, and yeah, that was CSL learning. Thank you.
I'm personally glad I'm not the one following that. Hi, Lunas. Wait, the days for that line. Sorry, Bianca. Yeah, so out of there. Next we went Bianca, who is on the Phillips team and has also already given her presentation, so I'm gonna refer a nice relaxing vibe.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to be beatboxing like the person before us, but I will be singing like Muno because our team is done, so that's good. Just a little, but that's okay. Okay, I'm Bianca, and I am a first-year student at Heinz in the Master of Public Policy and Management program, and I am representing the amazing Phillips Team 1. So I'd like to start off by showing this meme. So I don't have beatboxing skills, but I have meme skills. And so I think this meme perfectly describes how our team, and very much myself included, felt at the beginning of CSL, because nobody on our team really had healthcare backgrounds. What were the acronyms being thrown at us? What is OSA, COPD, DME? Like, what the heck do all of these things mean? So I think this meme does a good job of explaining just the general confusion we all felt going into this project and probably how we felt the first 3 weeks in class. Okay, so meet the team, my lovely team. And, I just want to give us a shout out, a quick kudos, because most of us are second year students and we are juggling different capstone projects. We are trying to study for exams. So just coming together and trying to work on a, cohesive project at the end of the day to the best of our abilities, I just like to give us a shout out because it was hard. So going into some learning, something that our team wish we did probably a little bit better at the beginning of our project was establishing that regular communication with the client early on. So hate to admit this, but there was probably a period of, maybe 2-3 weeks that we did not meet with the client regularly. So we wish we could have, sent out that Google Calendar invite with a weekly repeat or biweekly repeat, depending on the cadence. And even if we weren't meeting with them, we wish we could have just sent out those progress emails, just saying, hey, these are the questions we have. These are our assumptions, just so, we can kind of help keep our progress going in the early stages. Okay, so I did not think in grad school I'd be talking about the scientific method, but I'm going to talk about it because this thing really does work. I think one of the most important things that our team did was develop our hypotheses. Everyone on our team, we just, wrote our own hypotheses, our own assumptions, and we probably went through this cycles 2 or 3 times, and trying to decide trying to understand our problem and what are the actual solutions that we can take from, going through this cycle. And lastly, once we kind of went through the scientific method, kind of looking at our solution, we realized that our solution really needs to be at the intersection of both customer and business needs. And finding that sweet spot in between is really hard. Our team thought of a really bold and innovative strategy, but is that the most realistic for the company? No. And then our team probably thought of a more low-hanging fruit strategy, but is that innovative and will that capture some customers? No. So really kind of going through a lot of the exercises in COCSL, like the value innovation model, doing just the corporate canvas, all of these other assignments that we had really helped us kind of get in the sweet spot. And yeah, that is it. Thank you.
For those of you who aren't aware, Carlisle was a new sponsor this year, and we had 3 teams from Carlisle. So you'll be hearing from a few Carlisle folks as well. First up, Usman.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I have some of my favorite professors and my class fellows in this room. So let's get started. So I'm the project manager of Team Carlisle 2, and I have my team members Ameya, Aryan, Rishikesh, Suraj, and Vinay. And as you can see, we come from a different background. I was the only second year in this project. Oh, no, Suraj was also. So yeah, apart from Suraj and me, there was only 4 of the other team members were first year students. And when I registered for this course, I did not know anyone except for Professor Murphy and the last name of Professor Moni. That was it. And it was a different experience for me to learn from, a class that is completely unknown, and that's my capstone. So, but it was challenging, but at the same time, it was a learning experience. And so therefore, we tried to do our best to take care of the client, the faculty, and ourselves and as a team. So the first 3 things that we did on the prompt was to incorporate just-in-time management principles, printing and material coating technology to improve aesthetics, and decrease inventory carrying costs. So our journey was very diverse and very challenging, but at the same time, we learned a lot. Thanks to Dario, who's sitting at the front row. He took us to the, Metal Tech for the visit on this. We saw the Metal Tech, how the functioning works. Then we visited at Watech company plant. And then we also visited robotics lab of Jim McCann, professor, to understand how we can provide better solutions to our client and make this project a success. Our journey had many challenges throughout the process. We had team members who had COVID, and there was unknowns, as mentioned before, but other team members, other presenters, that we were fighting a challenge that we did not know about. So we would have constant meetings with our client, with the faculty, and they were very nice to help us out through. The insights that we learned in this project was that nothing can beat hands-on experience. The more you dig deep into the problem, the better you understand from the challenges. Diversity. That is the best thing I think I learned in this class, because as an MBA or as an electrical engineer, I can think of a problem in one way, but not as the same way as an architect would think in my team, or a robotics engineer would think about. So when we were trying to solve a problem, we all would bring a different set of solutions to the problem and how we can bring a best positive solution. So throughout the process, I got to learn from an architect how other things work, in architecture, from a robotics engineer. Similarly, they would learn from me. But even when I was teaching them something about market sizing or how, a customization, I was also learning myself, because when you're teaching another person, you're also learning more new concepts and how to express those knowledge. And thanks to our faculty and our clients, we were getting real feedbacks from, like, if you're going the right pathway or wrong pathway. So if you're going wrong, we don't need to waste the time of our client or faculty, and we can pivot and move to the right direction. Lessons learned. I think the first was embrace the ambiguity. When you're doing in this multifaceted, multidimensional project, there's always going to be something that's not going to go your way. So the best thing is, that's where your leadership kicks in. That's when you have to take the challenges, take the initiative. My team is not here today, but I'm still standing up for my team. So there's ambiguity at all times that you have to challenge with. Good communication is the key. I can speak for, I landed when the spring break began. I landed in Paris at maybe like 9 p.m. And by 11 p.m., I was having a meeting with my client the moment I landed to my, hotel room, so we can have, discussions on our weekly meetings. The same, I would be emailing Professor Murphy at 3 in the morning, or, Professor Liu on the weekends. So we had a communication with all the stakeholders amongst our team members and, outside the team members. Lastly, establishing the success metrics early on. Like, what are our goals? What do my team need from me? What do I need from my team? What does the faculty ask from us? And what does our client ask from us? So if we have all those, discussed, even if we are fighting the unknown, it becomes a far easier job than, otherwise. With that, I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Anahita with the ABM team up next. I forgot you were right behind me. Sorry. I was looking. I'm like, where is she?
Hello, everyone. I'm here representing Team ABM, but before I get started, I think similar to what everybody's been saying, all the 5 people who I was working with, all of us are coming from very, very different backgrounds, and it was really awesome to just be able to see what people's expertises are and bring them together into what we were doing. For those of you that aren't familiar with ABM, they do building, facilities, solutioning, and services. And I think for all of us, it was the first time that we had kind of walked into the back end of building management and maintenance, and it was a really interesting journey, but excited to share the 3 major takeaways that our team had. I think the first one was just around innovation requiring research and openness. I think if you're thinking about innovation either from the perspective of a startup or from the perspective of corporate entrepreneurship, I think my big takeaway is that if you're not talking to your end users, whether that's an internal customer or an external customer, you're really not going to be able to understand what the customer really needs. And I think what we discovered during our project was that once we spoke to them, a lot of things became a lot clearer, a lot faster. And I think the second benefit to doing that is really uncovering those additional areas of value that you may not have identified before if you're not in those situations. The third one, I actually come from a testing and business experimentation background. And I think one of the crucial things when we're thinking about researching and testing is making sure that the organization is open and ready to learn from things that they're gathering in research. And so I think my big takeaway, and I think that applies here too, is if you're able to see something is going wrong and it's failing quickly and you're able to catch it failing fast, I think that's a success, and people should be framing it as a success versus as a failure, because I think it really just helps iterate and people be more comfortable ideating and moving forward. You've heard a lot about this as well today too. A lot of the projects and the problem spaces were very ambiguous. And so in order to define these, I think falling back on research again is essential. So a lot of what we did initially was come up with
very small models or things that we were taking to research interviews that people were reacting to and sharing. And I think that was what we all benefited from and learned from the most. And the third one is in those situations, just really leaning on diverse perspectives, either in your team or outside, to help you get a perspective for the things that maybe you don't really know that are not coming from other conversations. The last one, thought this might be relevant given all the talk that's been going on recently with like ChatGPT and AI and ML. But a lot of what we were doing was some work around predictions. And I think the three key things that I think our team took away here was that just defining the strategy upfront is essential. You really need to know what you're trying to do with the technology and what it's going to be used for. And the second thing there is once you know what you're using it for, it's identifying the data that you need to get it to succeed. The data in this case, especially with AI/ML, is really just non-negotiable. Like you need to know what you're gathering and collecting, and you need to know how you're planning to use it. And if you don't have the data, I think just like coming up with that pipeline or figuring out the pipeline is very important. And then the last thing is just aligning the technology and the data that you have. So maybe you're not in a place where you're using all like the full extent or power of AI and ML, but like figuring out what can we do with the data that we are collecting. And I think you're able to come up with really interesting insights from that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Next up is Ryan, who was on the Carlisle team.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm Ryan, representing Carlisle Team number 3 tonight. Here's a quick introduction to my awesome team, also from very different backgrounds. They are mostly hiding in the back corner tonight. We have Loeth, Samya, Maha, Weche, and Abhishek. So start off with a huge thank you to them for being awesome to work with over the last few months. We had a few key takeaways as well that you may seem familiar by this point in the presentations, but ours were really around understanding the problem at a deep level, communicating not just amongst ourselves, but also with a wide array of external stakeholders who we were working with throughout the project, and finally just being comfortable when you don't know what that solution is. So when we started off this project, none of us come from a roofing background. I think Loeth had dreamed of being a commercial roofer for most of his life, but that somehow ended up at Carnegie Mellon. We had to take a step back from throwing solutions out to our client and just approaching with different technologies and seeing what we could apply to a roof before we even knew what the problem was. So we started talking to contractors, understood what the actual pain points were, and really measured that impact of where we could make a difference and where we could add value. Our second key lesson, this is my favorite, is our communication, again, not just with ourselves, but interviewing different stakeholders across the project. So in the same day, we would be talking to our client at Carlisle, and then a chemical engineer, then a robotics PhD, and then a commercial roofer who's been installing roofs for 35 years. Those are all very different conversations to have that required much different approaches. And we had to synthesize all of that information back to each other in order to make sure we took the best out of all of those conversations and could actually add value to the solution through them. And finally, our last one here is just embracing that ambiguity before we knew what the solution was. We really learned how to trust the process, go through the data gathering, trust what we were doing, and keep iterating, keep bouncing solutions off of our client until we were able to find an effective solution, which I can tell you was very recently coming up to this deadline here today. But I think we got there. So the 3 key lessons that were great to work on, great to learn, and that we can take with us through the rest of our careers. Thank you very much.
Next up is Daniel with the Bosch team.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure it must have all been confusing at this point. What is Carlisle, Phillips, and what not? But then we are the only Bosch team here, so we can say that there's no confusion between 1, 2, and 3. I'm very happy to introduce my team. We are 5 really smart CME folks from different schools and background. I am Daniel, and I'm graduating MBA candidate here. We have students from School of Artificial Intelligence, Human-Computer Interactions, and Robotics. We worked to solve some of the pressing problem that the world is facing for the Bosch. So we were super excited and also been very convinced that we actually are doing some impact to the environment in the whole. But through this process, we did learn quite a bit. We had moment of uncertainty, moment of doubt, and moment of like, what are we even doing? Like, we actually get together a couple of days ago to understand what did we actually learn professionally and personally, that's going to help us now and also beyond this campus. So we classified our learnings into three major areas. One, we have a diverse set of background. We come from diverse learning. And how did we use the diversity to improve our intelligence? And we also, it's a team. At the end of the day, everybody is busy, and like, we have so much assignment to submit on, and also we have so much client promises to deliver. So how do we make us more accountable to when we are working within the team is one of our greatest learning. And of course, with all this uncertainty, we learned how to be more adaptable through the situation and when it is uncertain. So to dive more deeper, the diversity of viewpoint is very interesting, especially like, people, we all came from our own biases or own assumptions based on whatever we exposed through or whatever the kind of experience that I carry from. Some of us had industry experience, some of us had like extensive academic experiences. So such diverse perspective helped us to question which is wrong, and question other people's opinion or assumptions. That helps us to become more intelligent or become more agile, or help us to modify ourselves into be very open, or questioning our own challenges and weakness helped us to understand, uncover some of these areas as well. And with accountability, this is very important actually. Like, we made sure early on, that we have to loop in our client during every week. So we got onto the client's calendar every week. We were so diligent in meeting them and updating them. So in order to do that, now we also be more diligent. Every week we have to have updates. So like we met, a day before or a day after. So accountability made a huge role in our, team, which led into, helping us understanding the, feedback sharing. For example, like we had a professor shared us a wonderful framework or like different hats. So we do this exercise every 2 weeks to see like, what is that we are struggling through, what went wrong, what went bad. So everybody had a moment to express their feelings, express what is going on. If something is not working well for some person, there is an opportunity for everybody to share. I think like that helped us to be more accountable, and we were on track in every presentation, and we didn't have to like rush anything at the end to do the work, and be more adaptable to uncertain situation. That helped to be more, since we had like an time and we were planning everything well in advance, we were able to come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. If something works up, like, our project has to do with reaching out a lot of industry experts, which is out of our control. Like whether we will be able to reach them, what if we're not able to talk to this person, what is plan B? So such uncertainty, we were able to, think creatively, come with an, objective answers, and that made us more curious and proactive at the end of this project. I think that this project helped us not only to be a better student or a better team worker within the CMU, and we all strongly believe that it's going to be a great experience and learning beyond the campus as well. But yeah, thank you so much. This is a picture because like we are working something related in this area. So yeah, I cannot.
Next up is Samia from one of the Carlisle teams.
So let me know if I'm not audible to the people in the back, because I don't want to be deafening all of the people in the front. I'm a loudspeaker. I can tone it up. So we are Carlisle 1, but to clear out all the confusion, we are calling ourselves Super Roofers. So this is my team. And again, a lot has been said about teams and working with them and how wonderful it was. I would just like to add to it that we came from, we went from thinking, oh my God, this team, and to, yes, this team, and I don't think I would have been able to achieve this with any other team. And also at the end, when I was actually making this presentation, we were all sitting together and I asked them what their learnings were. And the funny thing was that we all had the same learnings. So just to iterate, our learnings can be divided into 3 main components: internal, external, and process-driven. Also, I purposely made the font black here so that we pay more attention. That's not the case on subsequent slides. It is. I changed it, I promise. But internal, so everybody said that the teams were diverse, but they were not only diverse in the experience that we brought in, but also the ethnicities, the educational experiences, and even the thought processes. So initially, nobody had any clue about the construction industry because none of us come from that background or had even thought about it as a business. But coming together as a team, we were able to navigate those waters. Second is the stakeholders. So understanding stakeholder needs was very important because there were so many people whom we were able to recognize early on. The challenge, though, was that everybody needed different things from this project. And not only at a high level, like not only on the industry level, but even from the conversations that we were having on a daily basis, those expectations needed to be managed. Also was the conflict that arose a lot, because sometimes it so happens that when you're communicating something, some person might just feel that you're trying to attack them, where that is not the case. And so that was also a learning curve for our team, and we came out better from this. Communicating, again, as I said, was a challenge, especially when there were conflicting situations where one party wanted something else versus the other. And it was hard to communicate that we were, at the end of the day, all seeking the same things from this project. And then anticipating future problems is a big one, because most of the times when we're thinking of a solution, we take an approach which is more forward-driven, whereas best solutions come from a backward-driven approach where you know what the solution is first, and then you go backwards and try to understand how to actually reach there, which is kind of what we did. And finally, the process. What I mean by that is the whole due diligence process that we indulged in. So learning about the industry was a big one for us, especially given that it was a completely new industry that we had never thought we would dive so deep into. Identifying stakeholders. So once we did that, it was slightly easier to actually get to them, but to even understand who the right people would be in each of the categories that were involved with this project was a big task. And getting information, again, a lot of it is proprietary. People do not feel confident sharing the information with you. So how do you navigate that? And how do you let them know that you're not going to be stealing their information or doing something that they do not want you to do with it? And then collating feedback was also a big one. And I think we did share that in class also one time. So what we used to do was everybody took their own notes, and there would always be one person who would probably be doing it on a whiteboard. So afterwards, when we all came together and we had everything written in ink, it was easier to understand what really was being said in all of these meetings, and it was easier to make sense of everything that happened. That's it from me. Thank you.
2 more left. I promise we're almost done. Farouk from the Phillips team. Our last 2 are Phillips, and they have given their presentation. So,
you just ruined my last slide. That was like the highlight of my presentation. So yeah, at this point, I think everyone knows what I'm gonna be talking about. So I'll be repeating everything in a less talented way. Obviously, I cannot do any backflips. He can beatbox, so just hang in there. So yeah, as Professor Murphy said, my name is Farouk, and this is my team 3 from the Phillips project. Honestly, at this point, it's more like a family. Like, I spend my weekends with them more than I spend it with my wife, and my wife is in the back with me today. So shout out to my wife as well. So yeah, as everyone said, we have 6 people from 5 different schools at CMU, and that comes with a lot of challenges. So this is how week 1. For all the Lord of the Rings fans, the Hobbits fan. So this is how it started. We were actually like happy and excited to go over this project, to have some changes. But if you've seen the movies, you know what is coming afterwards. So as everyone said to this point, there's mainly 2 challenges with the CSL capstone. There's like the interpersonal challenges within the team dynamics from one end, and the problem and the project from another end. So if you look on the left side, we have differences in approach and methodology, conflicting schedules, power dynamics. So those were like major challenges that we tried to overcome early on. And then the second part is the project itself, the problem statement. a lot of time was spent to really understand what is the problem, what are we trying to achieve. Because most of the time there's like no problem, you don't need a solution. So we're trying to look for the right problem to provide the right solutions. Again, lack of familiarity, defining the task was very challenging. And more than that, just like ranking the priorities and the goals. 4 months seems like a long time. It's really not. Sean mentioned earlier, we had this countdown that we had since January. It really went by really fast. So prioritizing was very important. So this is how, as a team, we overcame the challenges for the teamwork. Again, we established clear communication channels. The CSL team provided us with project charters, team charters that kind of like helped us to have a timeline early on. We ensured that everyone understood and respected each other's roles and contributions. We encouraged open and honest dialogue about differences in approach or methodology. And we fostered a collaborative and inclusive culture that values all perspectives. And kind of like the lesson that we had from all these challenges is, as everyone said again, diverse teams really bring a wider range of perspectives that leads to creative problem solving. A lot of times we had problems, we got to analogies from different disciplines, different topics, and we're able to apply these in our problem statement. Now, moving to the problem statement, it was very crucial to do a market research early on to kind of like understand the setting, to immerse ourselves in this world, because a lot of us did not have the background information. And then again, I think the winner for today is ambiguity. We became comfortable with that term, really embraced it. Professor Murphy encouraged us along the way that just keep going. You'll figure it out, and hopefully we did. And then this is something that I think Team 3 from Phillips was really focusing on, is the data. We had a lot, like a heavy data set. Again, shout out to my wonderful team. I think they're sitting on that side. That really took some time to really understand the data, clean the data. If anyone work with data, you really understand how challenging it is. So we let the data drive our recommendations and not vice versa. We identified and interviewed key stakeholders to provide satisfactory solutions. And again, the lesson that we learned from all these challenges is the need for flexibility and willingness to adapt. And then I'm lucky to be part of the early teams that finished earlier today. So yeah, it's finally done. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for it. And last but not least, we have Sophia to talk about her experience and our team's experience with Phillips. She had to go last in the presentation today, and she's going last now. So everyone's stealing her.
Okay. Listen, it's me and Frodo. I'm okay. Do I still need both mics? How are we doing? Onward we go. Okay. So diving in, as mentioned, I'm Sophia Phillip. I actually come from Hines College across the street. I'm in healthcare policy and management. So honored to cross the road and join you all here today. So my team, we partnered with Phillips, and I'm not going to go into the degrees. I was hearing everyone, and something that reminded me of about, what was it, a year ago when I was interviewing with Sean for actually the Corporate Startup Lab Fellowship. And I was talking to him. I'm a health teacher by training and an art teacher, very different world. And there was a moment where I said, I really like finding gaps. And all of a sudden I could tell he stopped reading his email during our Zoom call. No. Sean is a wonderful listener, but I think we all know this moment. And he started listening to me. And then what happened over the next really 2 years now, year, was realizing someone at that moment believed in me. And on this screen right now, you have 6 people where someone chose to believe in them. And many of the clients here who we've worked with chose to believe in what we brought to the table, the training that we had, and letting us thrive in the ambiguity or struggle, who knows. But I think it's always important to remember we come to these moments, if we get to reflect, to realize how, like going down to like tectonic plates, how tectonic plates move when someone believes in you. And it's with that privilege and opportunity that we get to honor it today, but also hold the privilege that we hope with this opportunity we get to create it for someone else down the line. So I'm honored to be the recipient of today, along with my amazing peers. And let's talk about what the heck happened. So who knows the parable of the 6 blind men and the elephant? Couple nods. Just to review. So we have 6 blind men, and they've never seen an elephant before. And so each of them is touching the elephant, and they're saying, okay, it's like a fan, and they're touching the ear of the elephant. And then one of them's touching the leg, and they're like, it's a wall. And another one is touching the tail and they're like, no, it's rope. And it takes all of them interacting with this elephant to figure out, okay, it's this creature and only collectively can they define it. And so it's kind of the reverse elephant in the room. It's the kind of elephant you want, where you have to work together. And I think in our capstones, and also what I think is important is the 6 blind men aren't just my team. It's also us working with the client as well, who is coming to us being like, there's something you're going to figure out and you're going to do it and it's going to be great. And we work together, though, to figure out what is this elephant. And so I think always taking a step back and realizing who are all the players coming together to figure out that elephant in the room you actually want. So I should have said trigger warning, if you all remember Beginner Economics 101. So this is a classic supply-demand curve. We have our amazing equilibrium. That's the thing about equilibrium, though. Once you hit it, it doesn't like to move. So a big component of our project was figuring out what is the incentive and for whom to change that behavior to break from equilibrium. And a big part of that is figuring out who's your customer, but then also honoring lowest effort, maximum impact. Who can we change? Who can we incentivize to change behavior to actually shift the market, to shift that point of equilibrium? And I hated economics. I did. I'm sorry I'm saying it. But it did remind me, as someone who was actually trained in anthropology, of like, you have to honor what are the behaviors that actually resonate with the people you're working with, and then where are the moments, the turning point that you could get them to change. And so, of course, classically, you want to harness everyone's strengths. But I think what's really important is I actually speak this out back to the clients as well, because I think when we come to the table, we're ready, we're excited, we have a lot of skills. And so the labels you see here are all the skills of my teammates. And really, I'm in awe that I get to work by their side and work interdisciplinarily. But I think it's so important that idea of incentive also should apply for the clients to the students. We are a great discount, but we are also very smart and can bring really good ideas to the table. And it helps to have that mutual dialogue of what's the incentive, what's the appropriate bounds of the market that we're working with to maximize that impact with the lowest effort. And so it can really become a wonderfully dialogic relationship where I know we worked across sectors with Dan Easley from Encore. We worked with Philips as well, and it actually allowed us to figure out a really exciting moment in which we could incentivize a player to move that hadn't been thought of before. And so I always encourage this from both sides. Think about what are the strengths of the table, what incentivizes us to show off the most. And so what you're looking at right now is I actually went to my team. I said, what do you want out of this? You hear like, oh, I want a job. And then I heard, I want a portfolio piece. And for me, it was that moment as not officially team lead of like, that's how I'm going to get them to show up. That's how I'm going to get them to deliver. And so it was figuring out how do I strategize with the ask, a predictive model, using clinical data to actually come out. We were told, okay, come up with one strategy. By actually tapping into that, we came up with 2 strategies and 2 UI interfaces for a predictive model as well as a workflow management system. No one asked for it. The client didn't either. But it was by honoring that we all come to the table with a need, with an incentive, that we actually came out of it with a lot of good stuff. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us. And let's go.
All right, we're about to wrap up our portion of Public Demo Day, but I would be remiss if on behalf of Sean, Hallie, Lori, Lou, and myself, to thank the sponsors in the room because we can't do this without you. So thank you. We've got some prior sponsors, some current sponsors, and hopefully some new sponsors, right, Lou? Isn't that what you said? New sponsors? Yeah, there we go. So thank you to all of you for that. I hope you enjoyed hearing from the student teams. There's a couple words they didn't use, but you really weren't paying attention if you didn't see it. They are very proud. They have done tremendous work. They have worked very, very hard to get here. So there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into it. But what hopefully you also saw too was that of that ambiguity came some solutions, but also came some passion to identifying the problem space of really listening to customers and then being able to deliver a solution against that. So hats off to the student teams. You all worked very, very hard. And I just want to say thank you to all of you from the bottom of my heart for pouring your heart and your passion and your soul into your clients and your client work. So thank you, students. Thank you, clients.